And there we are. Let's take one more breath. Coming into this beautiful moment, we're going to go ahead and start with breathing in peace and exhaling love. Grounding once more for those of us who are joining online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today's talk, bear with me, it starts with a fun story. So as a child, this has some hardcore points, even though it may sound crazy at first. But I was a chicken wrangler as a child, and yeah, I had a lot of poultry, chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, and I used to have to catch chickens all the time. Fast forward 15, 20 years, maybe about 5 years ago at my old center in Arizona, Earth Spirit Center Healing, I kept longing for the past, those good old days of having chickens in my life. And so I constantly said, oh, I want chickens, I want chickens, I want chickens, I want chickens. Well, you have to be careful what you ask for, because I certainly manifested chickens. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, these wild chickens started manifesting in the backyard of the center. And at first, I'm like, I was so excited, they were so cute. But for anyone who knows chickens, especially when they're wild, they cause a lot of damage, especially if you're trying to plant a garden. And it just became this fiasco. I remember one Sunday we were just doing our thing, and then we had these big glass windows, and a chicken comes up and just starts pecking at the window. And I'm just like, how did this happen? But again, for probably couple years, I just kept saying, I want chickens, I want chickens, I want chickens, I want chickens. And then lo and behold, there they are in their glory in the backyard. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had to then catch the chickens, which if trying to catch a wild chicken is a PIA, because they can fly pretty high, and then anytime you try to catch them, they just jump up on the roof. But today's topic is actually called Boss Up and Change Your Life, but the first practice I'm teaching is called Catch Those Chickens, CTC. And what that's about is that if you, and this is good to know if you ever have to catch any type of poultry in your future. If you hesitate, you ain't gonna catch the chicken. And so there were times, because again, 15, 20 years had passed and I lost all my chicken wrangling skills, and there it was, and I literally just paused for 1 or 2 seconds, and those 1 or 2 seconds was enough for it to dart. And so I remember having this moment of clarity to where I just said, okay, I can't be nervous about this. I can't worry about me getting hurt. I can't worry about it getting hurt. I just have to grab it. And sometimes when I ended up catching them, I like completely skidded on the gravel and just had to grab it, because you want to especially grab it in a way where your hands go over the wings to protect it so it doesn't hurt itself. And again, if you have any hesitancy, you're not going to catch it, or one or the other one's actually going to get hurt more. So you have to have that full confidence going into it. Now fast forward this year, where we bought a couple properties and flipped one of them, and then here we are in this. It was so fascinating that both times we were making purchases or putting the contract in escrow, is that you couldn't wait. There were 3 other offers on the property, and then on this one again, there were also a couple already on. And so I remember thinking back to catching those chickens, you can't have hesitancy, and now it's applying to real estate deals, because if we hesitated, and how many of us constantly go back and forth, should I do this, shouldn't I do this, should I do this, shouldn't I do this, and you just completely analyze things to death, and you're completely paralyzed without making any decisions. Who's ever done that in business before? And then the opportunity slipped through you. And so that's when I'm just like, holy shit, catching chickens applies to every aspect of our life. And I'll go ahead and break that down. So for those of you who have handouts, and if not, you can go ahead and write this down. But we have Catch Those Chickens, CTC. So the first one is answer, fill in the blank, the call. So the first C is answer the call. And then the T, the second fill-in, is turn up. And the third one is the C, is confidently yes. So catch those chickens. Answer the call, turn up, confident yes. And I'm gonna bring this back into Zen and peace and all that stuff, but for now we're gonna actually just start with kind of a motivational self-improvement talk. So answering the call. How many of us have had so many opportunities over the years, or opportunities for connection or community or relationships, anything in between, to where you have been invited somewhere, or you've been invited out, or you've been invited to a work party? It could be literally anything, and you turned it down. And then it got easier to turn the next thing down. And then it got easier to turn the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth thing down. And what ends up happening is you're just like, I just need to rest. I just need to relax. You start to barricade yourself off from life, and you're trying to revitalize yourself. At least that has been my case in the past. But what's fascinating is that, have you ever noticed that the more things you start to turn down, maybe you're actually noticing stagnancy starting to occur in your life. And so things actually, maybe you're not actually regaining all that much energy. And you're noticing that just the energetic movement of your life is slowing down. And then all of a sudden you might start complaining about, where are the damn opportunities? It just feels like this year's the same as last year or the previous year, or this situation is the same as the situation I just had, the issue I had a couple months ago. And you just see these reoccurring patterns. And so that's what I love this first catch those chickens, answer the call. The first C is answering the call. When you have a call, an invitation to do something, especially if you're feeling stagnancy in your life, don't even worry about analyzing it. Rather than being hesitant with it, say yes. Because if you constantly say yes to all these things in your life, you're going to notice that movement starts to progress. And I'll get into that a little bit more. Now, the second one, turn up. Who's ever heard the saying where 50% of success is turning up? Anyone ever heard something akin to that? It's kind of cool. And it's absolutely, absolutely true. Because think about it. If there's this job interview and then you were waiting, maybe a few people applied right away and they were the first people to show up, and then you wanted to wait and kind of weigh the scales for a week or two, that job could have already been gone. Same thing with how we ended up getting this place. Had we waited just literally one more week, they probably would have actually entered contract with another party. It's crazy how that works, isn't it? Same thing with catching that damn chicken. Waiting just 2 seconds, it's on the roof. So turning up. And then the final one is a confident yes. Go ahead and write this down, please. I can and I will figure it out. I can and I will figure it out. Most opportunities in life, even when it comes to having children, when it comes to marriage, a lot of these new things that we're entering into, we don't necessarily have a ton of previous experience for. Even if you went to college and got a master's or doctorate's degree and then you get a job, chances are you probably weren't fully trained for the job that you're getting, but you do have somewhat of an education behind it. But what's fascinating is that so many of us, rather than having the thought process that I can and I will figure it out, we instantly have that negative, stinky thinking that says, I can't handle this, or this is too hard. And it's so fascinating that we had, this past 2019 was such a year of success for line dancing here in Bayfield. And even though I had a lot of experience with being able to dance, I never actually taught it. And the first time I ever taught line dancing, I completely bombed. It was such an embarrassing experience. I taught too hard of a song, only a couple people showed up. And then I was doing the microphone and I wasn't skilled with using a microphone. And so constantly my voice would go out because I'm trying to dance, I'm out of breath. And it was so embarrassing to my ego. And so I kind of came into teaching line dance with that experience, but I had this passion, I had this desire, and I'm I want to bring line dancing to Bayfield. And so lo and behold, I just said, you know what, F it. We're just gonna see how this goes. And I signed up and we did it at the Billy Goat Saloon, and the first time we did it, it was actually a blast. It was a huge success. Did it a few more times, and I'm you know what, I wanna start a team. I don't know how the fuck to lead a line dancing team, but I'll figure it out. And then lo and behold, we put together a team. I'm you know what, I'd love to perform in front of the whole town. Just keeps escalating. And so then we end up performing in front of the whole town at the block parties. None of this is anything I actually had experience in organizing. But again, I had that thought process. I can figure it out and I will figure it out. I can figure it out and I will figure it out. Same thing with this new place. We're just about to start a hospitality business, because this is kind of like, I guess it's Airbnb, but it's more of a hotel with 3 individual apartments. I can figure it out and I will figure it out. And so much of life has that energy. But who suffers from negative thinking from time to time, right? And it's interesting is that the older we get, who's noticed this too, the more comfortable we get with our own just natural skill set. And so maybe we've been doing something for so long and we're just like, I'm comfortable with this. I'm too old for that bullshit to put myself in uncomfortable situations. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I've always done. And that's fine, there's no judgment there. But almost every person I've ever met or talked to, they always have these unlived dreams or these unlived experiences of things they want to try and things they want to do or things they want to volunteer with. And it's so fascinating that it's often just the mind that's holding us back. And that the thought process around trying these new things. I remember 2016 was I think it was actually before that, 2014 was a big year of change, where all in 1 month I decided to start doing stand-up comedy, start line dancing is the first time I started line dancing, and then start taking martial arts, because literally I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna try it all at once. And I literally just put all embarrassment, all of the I'm terrible at this, because again, when you start something new, especially comedy, line dancing, or martial arts, you're probably not the the biggest rooster around in that coop. And what's beautiful is that it wasn't a matter of, am I doing this well or not? What it was a matter of was, energy is now moving in my life. Think about that. Trying those new things, it wasn't about being good at it or not. It was about, now there's new people I'm meeting. Now there's new experiences. My body is moving in new ways. And what's fascinating is it actually led into success in other areas of my life as well, because when you start moving energy in any area of your life, it starts to influence all areas of your life, because guess what? You're a common denominator in every area of your life. And so if you're noticing that you're moving your body more and you're moving your mind more and you're moving your emotions more, that is going to have an effect in all these other areas as well. And so through the years, I've had a lot of people work with me and they're saying, I'm apathetic, I don't know what's going on, I'm directionless, I don't feel good, I'm unmotivated, and all that's great. But great, it's not for them necessarily. For me, I'm just like, how joyous, you're gonna blossom, this is seeds of potential. But anyway, what's beautiful about that is that if we just started saying yes to the opportunities that came our way, even if it's not necessarily our end all be all, you're gonna notice that movement is starting to open up again. And that's the main thing that we really wanna look at, rather than being a perpetual hesitant chicken, right? I'm just gonna use these chicken words constantly through the sermon. A hesitant nugget, that's what we'll call it. Write that down, hesitant nugget, and then cross it out. I do want to put a disclaimer though, is that I have given other talks on the power of saying no. And so please notice that there is a polarity here. I'm not going to go into a whole 20-minute talk on why there's certain times where you need to have healthy boundaries and the power of saying no and the power of not doing things. There is wisdom in that, but that's not what this talk is about today. And so the confident yes, I want to tune in on that more. I thought of this morning, and it just made such a profound impact on me just thinking it and then about to go into teaching it today, is once we say yes to something, you actually have to keep saying yes to it for it to really work out. How many of us have said yes to a job or yes to a relationship or yes to literally anything that you've been working on, but then then things start to go south? Not that we have anything against south, but things start to go south and you notice you're not saying yes anymore, but you're still doing the job, you're still in the relationship, you're still moving ahead with whatever it is. But you're noticing that your mind is actually constantly adding a lot more resistance to it. And so again, it's not a matter of just saying yes once. It's saying yes to marriage every single day. It's saying yes to being an entrepreneur every single day. It's saying yes to your peace practice every single day. Who's been saying yes to their peace practice every day? But often we forget to show up like it's a brand new day rather than bringing over yesterday with us. We forget to show up. We forget to answer the call. We forget to show up, and we forget to confidently say yes every single day to the actual blessings already in our life. We start to take shit for granted. Who's done that? And so I thought about that. Going into marriage with Andrew, in the past, I was not always the happiest chicken in the coop. And I would often, I would bring a lot of baggage into relationships, and even before it ended, I was already in the mindset of no. And so with Andrew, I made a vow within myself where I literally, again, I didn't think it at the time, but this is really what was going on psychologically, where I just said, I'm gonna make sure that I say yes to marriage every single day. And what that means is I'm going to make sure that I show up in complete presence anytime we have conversations rather than being checked out. Who's done that before? And then I'm also going to make sure that I'm answering the call. And so when he asks me something, whether it could be literally anything, I'm going to make sure that I'm present in that conversation. I'm really hearing what his needs are. And so isn't that interesting? All of a sudden, catch those chickens. See, chicken raising as a kid now is going into marriage. Who knew? But it's really about that hesitancy. It's really about that getting caught up in the mind that keeps us from being fully present with the moment, answering the call, turning up, and having that confident yes. So write that down if you haven't already. Repeatedly saying yes to the opportunities in my life. Repeatedly saying yes to the opportunities in my life. And please don't think that just because you achieve success in some area that it's no longer an opportunity. It still is an opportunity that we want to treat with respect every single day. Some damn good stuff right there. And so now I'm going to kind of bring it back to Zen a little bit, the peace teachings. Why do we meditate? And this is only one answer, and it's written on the little handout here, but if you don't have a handout, you can write this down. But why do we meditate? To start each day with a clean slate that we can then direct our life's creation from. To start each day with a clean slate that we can then direct our life's creation from. Because think about it, if we don't meditate, it's almost like we're not scrubbing the dishes of our mind, right? And so you're bringing over that energy from yesterday into the next day, into the next day, into the next day, into the next day. And so when you start fresh, if you've ever had who's ever had a fantastic morning, you're just like, that went well. Hopefully some of us. Versus rolling out, being groggy, grumpy, whatever. But when you could really start your day, even if it's by noon, if you can get that type of energy, that's still okay. But when you have that blank slate, what ends up happening is that you're really able to direct the mind, you're able to direct the consciousness. Because when we don't have that clean slate, we're probably going to be more irritable, we're probably going to be more stressed out, we're probably going to be more reactive based off of what's already happening. And then there's a Dale Carnegie quote that I actually put a few down here. But the first one is, if you're not in the process of becoming the person you want to be, you were automatically engaged in becoming the person you don't want to be. Now I'm going to kind of adjust that, because it's not so much you were automatically engaged in becoming the person you don't want to be. It's really just a lot of people don't know what they want to be or who they want to be. And so really what you're doing is you're just leaving it up to chance. It's not necessarily who you don't want to be, but it's probably not going to be the utmost direction that when you figure out the direction of your life or you figure out where you want to go, if you're leaving it all up to chance, it's probably not going to be the end result that you're finally find that you're looking for. And so when I start my day with peace, when I start my day with the peace practice, when I start my day with the code, what ends up happening is that I now have a fresh and spicy mind that I can then direct my energy and my consciousness to, rather than getting caught up in judgment and worry and insecurity and stress and little problems that spend all of your energy on. Who's done that before? Something pulls your attention and all of a sudden the whole day gets consumed into that one little detail, when in the actual big scheme of things, it was so insignificant that we didn't have to spend so much energy on it. That's the issue of when we are not fully invested in putting our energy into our own directed course, life is gonna take that energy from you and use it for whatever's gonna happen. It's gonna be other people constantly pulling on you. It's gonna be your own judgments and your own insecurities pulling on you. And you're gonna notice that by the end of every single day, you're just gonna be exhausted and you're like, how much did I really put in the creation of the reality that I prefer? Maybe 5%, maybe 10%, maybe 20%, versus starting that day with that meditation, that clean slate with the directed consciousness, maybe you can put 70 to 80% in it. There's always gonna be percentage that's gonna go, always just leave that. You're just like, life happens, right? But when you're in control of your own being with the self-mastery teachings, you're able to respond to the conflicts. You're able to respond to the spontaneous situations that arise from a place of peace. So you're actually going to be using a lot less energy on it, and you're actually going to be able to use that as the peace practice. Even your chores, use those as the peace practice that then lays the foundation for what your life can look like. So let's take a breath. More chicken analogies. So the other chicken analogy I had was that, so I had all those wild chickens in the yard, right? Let's view those wild chickens as ideas. Who has ideas in your life of what you want to do, or different opportunities, and they're just all running amok? They're not actually in the coop laying eggs for you. That happens a lot for us. I always have probably like 10 to 20 different business ideas, or 10 to 20 different book ideas, or 10 to 20, just so many ideas in my head. And it validates the ego. It really does. When you have all these great ideas, you're just like, yeah, you know, you feel good about it, you get invested in it, but then if you never follow through with it, it's just a wild chicken in the yard that you're never able to collect the egg from. So you're never actually able to collect the nutrition from, you're never able to collect the prosperity from, you're never able to collect the results from. And so a lot of us pride ourselves in being very creative, or maybe we pride ourselves in having a lot of ideas and all these things, and it's fantastic, but what ends up happening at the end of the day, are we really making progress on those things? And so we have to make sure that we're gathering all those chickens in the coop so that they can actually lay eggs for you, and you can actually have that energy exchange, rather than just having things constantly blowing in the wind. Whoever feels that way sometimes. And again, now we're gonna do the flip side, to where even if you catch all your chickens and they're all laying eggs perfectly for you, it still does not guarantee happiness or satisfaction. I'm so sorry. That's the hardcore Zen master coming out, where it's like, even if everything goes perfect and right, you're gonna still notice that life satisfaction is temporary, happiness is temporary, and achieving XYZ does not actually lead to a lasting satisfaction or happiness. Many of you have heard me say this before, but it's important to remember that, because a lot of times it's like, well, I got all my ducks in a row, I got all my chickens in the coop, why am I not happy? Why am I not satisfied? Well, because every single day it's a brand new day, and we return to it with our peace practice, and it's recognizing that all emotions are temporary. It's recognizing that this life is temporary, and that we can still find beauty in all things. And here's the kicker: the number of chickens that I have does not define my worth. The number of chickens that I have does not define my worth or my inherent value. So if you have 100, if you have 0, there's still that inherent beauty within you. There's still that inherent worth within you. Isn't that cool? And we forget that, because how many of us are insecure and we feel stressed out, and then we create all these stories as to why. But what's beautiful is all of them are just literally created in the mind. And let's read another Dale Carnegie quote. You can conquer almost any fear if you will only make up your mind to do so. For remember, fear doesn't exist anywhere except in the mind. And then 2 men looked out from prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. 2 men looked out from prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. And that's just a reminder of how important perception is in our life. And perception really is laying the groundwork for our sculpted experiences, sculpting the experiences we have in this reality. And then finally, be more concerned with your character than your reputation, for your character is what you are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. Let me repeat that. Be more concerned with your character than with your reputation, for your character is what you are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are. If you're constantly thinking about what other people are thinking about you, that is so much wasted energy, because you have a little control, but you have almost no control over trying to manipulate the thoughts of other people and their perception of you. Because no matter, even if it's positive, no matter what you do, they're always going to get it wrong, even if it's positive or negative, because no one can ever see the fullness of who you are. It's just impossible. No one can ever see the fullness of who you are in your entire lived experience. And so you're completely off the boat. Whether people love you or whether they hate you or they're indifferent or in between, that's not the issue. And so many of us spend our entire lives trying to please and create this image of reputation for others to perceive us, but all of it is just it's a temporary, illusory manifestation. And so that's why it's important for us to come back to our actions, come back to our character, come back to our practice. And when we do that and then we show up in life, then the whole reputation thing doesn't really matter all that much, because we're actually doing the work and we're satisfied within ourselves doing the work. Does that make sense? It takes a lot of practice. I'm making it sound so easy. It's not. So let's breathe that in. So catch those chickens, CTC. Answer the call, turn up, confident yes. And the reason why I wanted to say catch those chickens is because I don't think you're going to forget that phrase now. Because it's so out there. It's so random. And next time you notice that you're feeling stagnant or you're hesitating on an opportunity that's coming your way, say to yourself, have the little Alaric in your mind that says, catch those chickens. And you're gonna probably laugh. You're like, oh shit, yeah. And then maybe it will remind you of this sermon, because again, it's nice to have little nuggets that you can take away that remind you of these teachings, because again, you will get distracted in your everyday life. It's a guarantee. You will get distracted by stuff. I was gonna say shit, but there it is, stuff. You're gonna get distracted by chicken shit, and that's okay. But when we have these little anchors of peace, these hot damn nuggets, it helps bring us back to the practice. It brings us back to making sure that we're directing consciousness and directing energy, rather than having it constantly being consumed and just going every which way around us. Pretty cool, yeah? So I can and I will. 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 The same thing applies to 50% of success is showing up. So your homework this week, 50% of success is showing up. So make sure that you show up on your meditation mat, or make sure you show up in front of your altar. Make sure you show up anywhere in your life, at your home, that you have a meditation area, because even just going there and sitting there, you're gonna notice that you'll at least do something. But if you notice that you just walk by it every single day, or maybe you don't have one at all, then it's so much more difficult to practice. But just sitting on that mat for just 5 minutes already, or even just a minute, you're gonna see a different energy there. Because again, just showing up to it will have a drastic effect on your life. So in conclusion, boss up and change your life, people. Boss up and catch those chickens. Let's take a breath. A little bit different from last week's talk, which was the why I don't teach God. So it was all spiritual. This week is more about the self-improvement. But that I like to go back and forth. And so thank you all for joining us, those of you online or maybe who are watching afterwards. Links are down below. We do have a Patreon for anyone who would like to set up a recurring donation or one-time donations on PayPal. And look, I don't have it, I'm working on it right now, but soon we're gonna have a new website for the Dunisha Sanctuary and all the fun stuff that we have planned this year. So I can't wait to share it all with you hopefully in the coming weeks. Until then, see you next week. Mwah. Bye.